Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4! And today, spawning in the south corner of the map, playing in red, we've got Beastyqt playing as the Knights Templar. And battling against them today, spawning in the northeast in blue, we've got from Forgotten Empires, it's Mike P playing as the House of Lancaster. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. As always, hope you guys are having a great morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And it's been a while. I've missed you folk very, very much. I've just been a bit busy, really, in real life situations. But I'm back casting Age of Empires 4, and boy, it's good to be back. I'm a bit rusty, but I'm sure we'll get back into the swing of things. And I'm especially rusty because, well, it's the very first time I'm casting these two new civilizations, the Knights Templar and the House of Lancaster. Of course, two civilizations coming very soon to the new DLC for Age of Empires 4. Hope you guys have been enjoying the preview so far. A couple of the content creators already have access and are showcasing a lot of the units, the situations, and the pretty cool, nifty mechanics for these two civilizations. It's going to be a very steep learning curve, of course. Whilst they are variant civilizations, so they've got some sort of overlap with their, I guess, their base civilization, the House of Lancaster feeding off the English, and the Knights Templar from the French. It actually turns out, I guess they've been called variant civilizations, but they play very, very differently. And we're going to be exploring that in the upcoming casted games. So for the Knights Templar, let's take a look at this civilization. It's a civilization which has some kind of familiarity with the French. They do have some really cool stable units, which we may or may not see. We'll have to, watch this space. But something that's very cool is that their town centre is essentially their age-up building. Kind of gives the vibes of the Ayyubids and the Abbasid dynasty with the House of Wisdom. It does, however, mean that you can't produce villagers whilst teching up to the next age. There are also various different ways you can tech up. In fact, there are 3 choices. Turns out Beastie is going to go for the Knights Hospitalier, or Hospitaler, I should say, which increases the health of all civilian, units by 30%, and increases the healing from all sources by 30% also. So what this essentially means, well, I guess it's going to be improving the health of the villagers, but perhaps a little bit more interestingly, it's going to be improving the health of a certain unit, and that is going to be units that go to the sacred sites. Pretty cool, because they're actually going to have pilgrims, the Knights Templar. They were known as a faction, or I guess an order that would protect pilgrims. And so the pilgrims will be going to the sacred sites and gather gold, and so their health should increase as well. What's very cool is they do also have a particular unit that can actually heal itself. We'll come on to that a bit later. It's kind of like a man at arms for the civilization, but I'm sure we'll see that coming in soon. And here it is, Pilgrim Destination. You can actually choose any of the sacred sites to go to. It's important that you do if you play the civilization, so that your pilgrims can spawn. Now it turns out these pilgrims can't actually be controlled, so bear that in mind as well. They just hover across the map and go to the appointed sacred site. So you've got to keep them protected, nice and secure, but when you do, you gather some gold. Now, moving on to the other side of things, the House of Lancaster have aged up with the Lancaster Castle, which is a defensive landmark that can do a one-time muster of units from manors in each age. Lots to break down there because, manors is a new thing, which is essentially a building for the House of Lancaster, which then generates more resources. So 45 wood, 70 food per minute, and increases the maximum population by plus 10. Now, you can build a whole bunch of these. And the Lancaster Castle, when you do have plenty of manors, you can actually draft in units. So for example here, muster the nobles. You can levy 2 demi-lancers and an additional 1 demi-lancer for each manor. You can get 8 yeomen and also an additional yeoman for each manor. And then you've got the demi-lancer, Earl's Guard and yeoman per manor. So pretty cool, it's like an emergency button, if you will. It kind of gives vibes of trying to be kind of, I guess, greedy with however many of these you want to build, but they don't come cheap. They're a structure that costs 200 wood and 100 stone, So you gotta be, I feel like it's one of those interesting mechanics for this civilization where you want to get as many of these as you can, and if you're kind of caught by your enemy being aggressive, well then you've got a magic button to press to get plenty of units quickly. One thing that's pretty cool about the House of Lancaster is that they do actually spawn with extra sheep to start off the game, and the villagers gather more, well, quicker rather, got a bit of a better efficiency on sheep. And, well, we were talking about how these are variant civilizations, and you gotta realize that these guys actually don't share much in the way of the base civilization bonuses. So, for example, you've got the mill that kind of makes the farms cheaper for the English, or at least supervises it and get extra food from it as well. But the farms for the House of Lancaster are neither cheaper, and they don't, work more efficiently either. So they don't have that from the English. They also don't have the network of castles bonus or the network of citadels. So as a defensive civilization, not as strong, but certainly an interesting civilization nonetheless. Now the Knights Templar going a bit more aggressive on the deer camp here. Beasty looking to get that food nice and quickly. Has also gone for a barracks, so this is actually something I wanted to talk about. Now, as we said earlier, he did age up with a technology which essentially allowed them to get extra healing, and this is where it becomes important. The automatic healing is on for the Hospitaller Knight. It's a unit that's essentially, I guess, their form of the man-at-arms. It's got high armor, slow movement, it's countered by knights, lancers, and crossbowmen. It's got man-at-arms written all over it. Pretty cool thing is they can heal each other up. And so that's going to be boosted up by the technology that Beasty went for. Now each pilgrim does actually give you 130 gold depending on the distance of the sacred site. But generally you're going to be maxing that out. Unless the sacred site is super close. Alright, look at that. Muster the nobles. We talked about this a little bit earlier. The magic button has been pressed. And he's got a couple of demi-lancers here on the field. Very interesting unit. Gains 1 damage for each active keep. So more keeps means more active damage. The Yeoman coming up across. Got a really good activatable ability. It's pretty cool to see it. I don't know if we'll see it today. Hopefully we will. But it's a synchronized shot. All selected Yeomen fire into the targeted area. Kind of excited to see that for sure. Charging on in. Now the Knights, the Hospitaller Knights, going to be kited a little bit by a couple of these Yeomen, but there aren't that many of them, right? So I guess basically just trying to protect the food source here. Maybe thinking about going to the castle age, although he's going to obviously get a couple of units in doing so. Not wanting to seed the farms. Pro Scout's not really on the menu today for these two civilizations. It's been a constant feature of the last patch with most of the base civilizations. Might actually lose a villager here. Just about gets away with it. Oh, look at that. The Hospitaller Knight healing on up. Cool animation, I've got to say, actually, though. And the Hospitaller Knight's going to charge away now, those yeomen. Do you see the demi-lancers? Where have they been roaming off to, actually? There they are. Snapping a couple of Pringles? I was about to say Pringles, but pilgrims, of course. Wheelbarrow coming on in, as well as Bloomery, so Beasty's starting to get those all-important upgrades, but I wonder where Mike P is going to be going with his playstyle from here on out, because one thing else to bear in mind is that Spearman could be an interesting addition for the House of Lancaster. Of course, he's gone for a bit of cavalry and the Yeoman. The reason why Spearman could be pretty cool is because the Spearman for the House of Lancaster actually debuff melee units, their armor, so that could potentially help with dealing with these Hospitaller Knights, which have now built up in a larger number. Beasty starting to push these Yeomen back. Alright, Steel Dara coming in for the Yeomen. Pretty good timing actually, because these Hospitaller Knights were starting to charge on through and a lot of them were there. A Demi-Lancer. A pretty cool unit, a unique heavy cavalry unit with moderate damage and durability, strong in melee combat, but it's apparently countered by Spearmen and Crossbowmen as you'd expect heavy knight type units to be. The Yeoman just coming around the right side now. Running onto TC5. It took actually quite a bit of damage, I gotta say. Holy moly. Did have 13 units garrisoned inside, I guess. 13 villagers temporarily incapacitated. Looks like in the north, a bit of force. Yeah, we are adding in those spearmen for the House of Lancaster. Interesting that they've got additional damage against elephants as well. Pretty cool to be able to deal damage against Delhi. which, by the way, Knights Templar seems to share a decent amount with in terms of kind of mechanics and the way they play, in the sense that sacred sites for them is very, very important. Bit of charge on here now with the Hospitaller Knights. Gonna try and push those yeomen away as best as possible. Should be getting a good job of doing this, actually. Well, I mean, I think Beastyqt will pick up a lot of these, of course, the charging on in, and without too much of a meat shield, or as I say that now, the spearmen are popping forward. It's going to be a bit of a kiting effect here by Mike, and trying to whittle down the numbers as best as possible. The big question is whether Beasty has got a grand master strategy behind all of this, and it looks like it could be Castle Age. It's got plenty of food involved. You can see there's a kind of purple hue around the Hospitaller Knights. Let's get the spearmen here involved. But yeah, I mean, these knight numbers are starting to dwindle, right? The yeoman numbers building up, spearmen doing some debuffing on the armor. It's actually looking like a very powerful combination here. Spearmen, yeoman for the Lancaster. Behind this, though, I'm kind of curious to see what Beasty decides to go up to the next stage with. He's got three options. He's got the Angevin Empire, which allows the fortresses and the docks to gain 30% extra health. It's got the Republic of Genoa. Pilgrims generate 30% extra gold, which could be pretty interesting. But it's also got the Kingdom of Castle, or Castile rather, of course, where units near sacred sites gain 20% damage and regenerate their health. And so this kind of plays into the... yeah, he's actually going for the Kingdom of Castile. So that allows him to maybe focus on the sacred sites as a potential win condition later on in the game, although to make sure he keeps the villagers alive first and safe and sound, which he does. Looks like Mike is looking to go for a bit of a big push here in the feud age. Really kind of committed, although, as I say that, is starting to bank up resources to slowly think about Castle Age himself. So this doesn't look to be an all-in push, it's a big push. Looking to do some damage, at least cut off a bit of food and disrupt a few things here for Beasty. But overall, I like the fact that Mike behind this is thinking about the secondary plan behind this, right? Thinking about the Castle Age. One thing to bear in mind, though, is that this army, if there's cavalry on the field here for Knights Templar coming in the Castle Age, it could be a problem, although, I mean, to be fair, it might still be. You might be thinking, well, how can that be? It doesn't have a single stable. Well, hold on. There we go. The Genitor. Now, it's not actually showing up as here as an option. I don't know if that's like a visual display plug, or I don't know what that is, but either way, you can see Genitors are being trained. It's got like horse archer vibes, but also, probably more importantly actually, javelin thrower vibes from the Malians. The reason for that, it's essentially a javelin thrower, but on horseback. It looks pretty cool because this army composition is going to be strong, right? Because he's got Genitors which will do well against the yeomen, could do pretty well against the spearmen as well, as long as they're going to be kiting and make sure they don't get caught out though. But this combination between Hospitaller Knights, which are now veteran by the way, because he's in the Castle Age, with Genitors behind it, could be incredibly strong. Now the question is, how much damage has Mike done? I don't know if he's done enough in terms of... to be fair, I can't say justifying because he's killed 6 villagers to be fair, and he is still getting some more structural damage. Behind this, he's also going to the Castle Age himself. Going to go with the King's College, which will be giving him some unique techs, but we'll come on to that a little bit later. But more important actually, as well, reduces the research cost by all technologies by 15%. Really nice power spike on that actually, because when you get to the next stage, you want to think, well, how can I make the most of it? And cheaper researches is always very welcome. You can see now these Hospitaller Knights now pushing on forward with the Genitors behind. Genitors should be able to snap a couple of these Geomen on the way back. That's the thing, right? Mobility-wise, we're talking about how cavalry or these units could be caught. So in a way, I guess they do almost play like the English here, the House of Lancaster, because you've got that kind of yo-yo effect. You get caught out with the English, get caught out with the House of Lancaster with the units out of position. In an awkward spot, it's hard to retreat because of the low mobility of the units, and that's proving the case at the moment, although a couple of veteran demi-lancers could help him get away. Oh, good bit of raiding here. Beasty getting some vengeance on the villagers that he lost earlier. This is a really good pushback. Beasty just obviously making the most of the timing on his Castle Age, and you have to wonder now with the map control, Castle Age coming at a very nice time, maybe you might think about getting some of those relics. And the debuff on the Spearmen will be taking place on those Hospitaller Knights, but he needs those upgrades, Mike, just as well. does have the King's College. So whilst this fight is happening, I mean, this is actually pretty cool to watch, right? Because this is why this army is so strong for the Knights Templar. He's got the Hospitaller Knights tank in the front line against the Spearmen, and he's got the Genitors behind them that could potentially be focusing on the Yeoman. I mean, the big problem for Genitors is going up against melee units, where these guys have got high ranged armor, so the Yeomen don't really do too much about them. They don't want to be running into Spearmen, but they can't, or at least the Spearmen can't reach them because of the Hospitaller Knights. So this is a very strong army composition for Beastyqt, especially when you're being on the aggressive and the offensive like this. Pretty cool thing as well with these Genitors is they look like they could be a really powerful raiding unit. I mean, they don't do huge amounts of damage, but you can see how much pierce armor that they have. And he could potentially just snipe villagers. And I mean, he's going to hang out underneath the town center. 15 villagers are garrisoned inside as well, which is a large chunk of that economy. So he's not losing. I mean, he's going to lose them eventually, but he's just causing so much idle time. And this should be really hurting the economy. And if not just by idle time, he's actually still getting kills. And there's so many villagers just scattered around. Now, he does have enough stone, almost, Mike here, to get a second town center. Maybe that's his way to claw back into the economy side of this game, but it's looking a bit awkward, right? A couple of Yeomen here on the relics just to protect that. But all in the meantime, Beastyqt has been getting these pilgrims safe and sound to their sacred sites. Interesting game so far. Mike looking just to lick his wounds, maybe regroup and recover. Build some walls, looking to go again. And I would like to say, by the way, if you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel and you're back for some more, because obviously I've had a bit of a break, thank you, welcome back, and I really do appreciate the support. If you haven't already done so, and you'd like to see more content like this, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, because I'm going to hopefully casting a lot more Age of Empires for going forwards, especially with the new DLC, right? There's so much buzz around it, so much hype, there's lots to unpack, lots to discuss, and I love talking about new mechanics, new civilizations, and because of these civilizations, there's plenty more matchups. Now, this is an awkward situation. Oh, this is not good for Mike, right? Because this is one great thing about the Genitors as well, as a raiding unit. You catch these villagers, and it's hard to run away for those villagers. The Genitors got great movement speed. Obviously, no Mangadai. The fact that they do have to stop to shoot, but still, holy moly, they could do a lot of work. And even if Mike had some units there, the Genitors could just run away, and that is really, really key as a raiding unit. And there is that second town center here now for Mike, looking to escalate and get the villager count rocking and rolling again. But Beastyqt certainly in good control. And just as you just saw that, the town center spawned 4 sheep. There's a pretty cool bonus there. So we talked about earlier in the cast how the House of Lancaster get that extra sheep from the town centers. It even applies to the starting town center, but also extra gather rate from them. Oh, relic is being brought back, and not for long though. Fortunately, Scholar died a very painful death. So continuing with the Genitor play, now looking to get a couple of rams here, Beastyqt. Looking to maybe put pedal to the metal, make the most of the map control and put some pressure on further. But it's still sniping villagers, it seems. It's looking like it's in a good spot. Now, one thing to bear in mind, we talked about the orientation on the sacred sites. Couple of fortresses for the Knights Templar could be really powerful. These Genitors, probably not what they wanted to be doing, running into a batch of spearmen like that. They're still looking to snipe those spearmen now that he's got some range. Maybe snipe a couple of villagers too. Right, interesting tech into the crossbowmen. Oh, these villagers are kind of going a bit crazy here with the torches. The cool thing about the crossbowmen as well, hopefully we'll see it again, but they've actually been having an updated animation. They're actually looking to reload their crossbows. So they're looking really, really good. As he's looking to burn down this town centre. There's a good few technologies here that could be researched for the House of Lancaster, as the second TC does go down in the end. Trading in rugged terrain increases Hopla charge damage. That's kind of their, I guess, their horseman equivalent. And this is looking pretty cool as well. Your knights and demi-lancers adorn their armor, gaining +6 bonus damage against enemy armored units. Obviously not, I mean, to be fair, it could work pretty well against the Hospitaller Knights. But it's definitely been a clear steering away from cavalry units, although we do see a couple of stables now added in. Do see the Hoblar coming into play. Looking to cut off reinforcements. Nice play here by Mike P to try and do that. try and stem the flow of the push coming on in, which is looking to be a very strong push. Beasty now, having had a lot of ascendancy in that castle age since then, really, has killed a lot of villagers, done a lot of eco damage, and has got a lot of map control and position on the map, I gotta say. Now looking to get the sacred sites as well. I suspect he's got the lion's share of the relics. There's 3 there already. 1 behind here. I suspect Beasty must have picked up 4 by now, there or thereabouts. Yeah, he's now potentially even going to lose this this landmark before getting the upgrade that he wants. He has been training those hoblars, but I don't think he gets it in time. It's a pretty cheap upgrade though, I've got to say. Only 43 food and 85 gold. He won't get it in the end though in time. Looks like Beasty's looking at a really good spot. It's not all over. Mike P does have a good village account still. And if he can actually trap this, I mean, probably... Oh, he kind of is trapped here, Beasty, isn't he? The Spearman could do some really significant damage. I mean, the Rams are going to be a bit of a distraction. Genitals did peel away, so this is where Micro comes into play, right? Because the Spearmen are going up against the Hospitaller Knights, which is what the Hospitaller Knights want to do. Granted, the Spearmen are debuffing them a little bit. The Genitals managing to get out of there in the end. Probably the right move because the Hoblar are chasing them down. If the Spearmen can get a couple of the Genitals down, I mean, to be fair, that was a really good engagement there for Mike. Beasty's numbers of army really starting to dwindle. He's having to head back home. Bit of raid around the back once again. A couple of these Hospitaller Knights denying some gold. Despite a good engagement, Beasty is still in a good spot. Lacking the army numbers. He should be able to replace that with the amount of economy he's got. Look how much stone he's got. Looks like he might be thinking about getting a couple of fortresses on the map to solidify his positions. Has gone for a couple of crossbowmen himself, actually, as it happens. He's got the nice transition for that as well, right? We've got the archery range essentially making both the Genitors and the crossbowmen. That'll do well up against a couple of the knights here from the House of Lancaster. Second town center once again, 4 more sheep. Which is actually very nice. It makes it very smooth, right? Because when you add a second town center, generally you're hurting for food, or at least you have to invest a lot of food. So having sheep like that, extra spawning, is very, very nice. Of course, other civilizations deal with that with maybe having cheaper farms or cheaper villagers. See the crossbowmen here are now reloading very nicely in the animation. Beasty is starting to be pushed back in terms of map control after that earlier fight, but he's not being pushed back too far, especially once these fortresses are in play. One thing to bear in mind, we haven't talked about it just yet. When it comes to landmarks, the Knights Templar technically only start off with 1 because this is their age up building, the Templar headquarters. But when you do add further fortresses, these now actually, they essentially act as a defensive landmark now. So you do actually have to destroy this as well if you want to go for a landmark snipe. But you only have to destroy it once, so it can't be repaired as a landmark. You lose it, you've lost it. You can repair it to keep though again. Nice little bit of a bonus for them. Now, he will actually have that extra Faith of Castile. Nearby sacred sites grant 20% damage and 1 health every second. Makes it even harder for the enemy to deny a sacred site victory. So you can see already the parallels almost with the Delhi Sultanate and the Knights Templar. At least in terms of winnable objectives or things you might go for, being the sacred sites. Speaking of which, 9 minutes on the timer. Mike P has got a task on his hands, especially with 2 fortresses. One thing that's pretty cool is that you can actually get trebuchet emplacement here for the Knights Templar, something very unique to them. Hoping we'll see it today. He's even going for a fortress on the other side as well. What's pretty cool is that I believe they cost a bit of gold, these fortresses. Not your just standard stone. There it is, yeah. 600 stone and 300 gold. Which again is quite nice because, well, your pilgrims should be getting you the gold that you need. Alright, well, heading to a situation where things have quietened down a bit. I wonder what the next move is here for Mike. He's got plenty of gold, quite a few villages on stone as well, looking to try and deny this fortress. I mean, it won't happen in the end. Fortress will go up. A nice transition to crossbows here, actually, for Beastyqt. As Mike tries to push one here, but this is where it becomes very tricky, right? Because if Beastyqt gets his army forward, it's going to be a problem to... I don't think he can torch this down quick enough. He needs some siege. Increases the gold generation of monasteries, sacred sites and pilgrims by 20% within the aura of the fortress. So you can see getting the fortresses really synergize as well with a lot of the upgrades. You can see that the artillery, well, crossbows I should say, are winding up. Gotta say, they've added in man at arms, so slightly different. I said that actually, the Hospitaller Knights were kind of like the man at arms, but they do actually get man at arms themselves. Boy, do they look good. Now, Mike, having been on a second town centre, has eked out a bit of a villager lead. But the army here, you just feel like it's a lot stronger here for Beastyqt, right? It's got a lot of man at arms, a decent number of crossbows. This means that this is a high value army. You can see it at the bottom left there, actually. Well, more than double. Got full control. Though it did lose the sacred site, would you believe? Plenty of farms back at home here for Beastyqt. He's been scaling that economy. I wonder what the farming transition's been like here for Mike. Not as good. That might hurt him. So Beastyqt's edging towards the Imperial Age as it happens, looking to wall up stone walls as well. Yeah, you can see he's really playing for the sacred site victory. Did get the sacred site decapped, but I'm not so sure he's going to get it decapped for a second time, especially if he gets the Imperial Age. The kind of economy he's got behind this, and the full farming transition well underway, should be in a good spot for getting those upgrades very quickly when it gets to the Imperial Age. Mike not too far away though. The question is there any major twists and turns? Any switches of army? It looks like it's primarily barracks, so I think Beastyqt going to be continuing to add in those man-at-arms and the Hospitaller Knights. It's going to go for the Teutonic Order as well. And an interesting one for sure. It's going to be getting all gold units to gain +2 melee armor, which is a really nice talking point actually, because we saw earlier in the game it was really mostly the Hospitaller Knights and Genitors as essentially the army composition. But of course the Genitors aren't actually a gold unit. So in this scenario where now we have Hospitaller Knights and man-at-arms and crossbows, they're all going to benefit from this Imperial Age tech up. Mike, looking to wall on up, has looked to also add in a third town centre, which Beastyqt actually spots, and now that he spots that, he might be thinking about going for a really big push. He's got all his upgrades queued up. Looks like he's raring to go. Look at that. Elite upgrades to man-at-arms. Elite for the Hospitaller Knights. Elite for the crossbowmen. Mike looking to solidify this side of the map with a keep. Gonna be tricky though. Especially if your Beastyqt decides to get a trebuchet in placement. I'm not sure if it's going to be in range, but if it is, shouldn't be. I also have to say, by the way, one thing that I've really liked, it doesn't seem like a lot, but look at the waving flags. There have been a lot of really nice changes in this most recent update for Age of Empires 4. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below, actually, if you've been enjoying the small details. I think Age of Empires 4 has always been about that. Really good attention to small details, and the game looks really good. These small little updates just making it even all better. 7 minutes on the sacred site timer. It's going to be a dicey one here for Mike. Looking to get some interesting upgrades. Militia program Gonna levy some of the units from the manors. Scutage. It's been an interesting match for sure. This is pretty cool. Going for the Buildup. So, the landmark of choice, by the way, to go to the Imperial Age for the House of Lancaster was the Wingard Palace. And as it happens, what's been chosen here is the, well, this one. There we go. Gunpowder Contingent. The reason why this is pretty cool is because the House of Lancaster can't actually produce Republicans in any other way. It can do if you've got this and, well, click it. Has added in a culverin. Oh, look at that. There is the counterweight trebuchet working hard. Gonna try and get that decap. Has to really, Mike, right? That's where the pressure is. He's got good economy behind this. Question is, has Beastyqt got a solid enough defense? Doesn't necessarily have the better economy, but all he has to do is hold on for a good 6 minutes. Nothing's happening on the west side, so the focus really is on the right. Bear in mind, of course, all these units are getting bonuses and bonuses. 20% extra damage and healing too from the Hospitaller Knights. Also, the fortress also increases the range of the crossbows, so they're getting the first hits a little bit quicker. A lot of these knights will melt to that. Yeah, this is looking a bit dicey for Mike. Can't really push on in. I mean, a lot of these army, it doesn't really seem to scale well, right? The veteran yeoman, it's a tricky one to really scale in the late game, especially when you're up against this number of heavily armored units. And actually add in a couple of these elite archers too. Ooh, look at the Teutonic Knights coming into play. Holy moly. These guys should be hella tanky. Yeah, Mike, he can't do it. He will be pushed back. Looks like Beasty should be able to take the game, and he does. A great opening to the casting for the new DLC. For me, at least personally. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you guys on the next one.